Hey, Elf Factory. You read in the title, right? We might need a 30% Bitcoin correction. And the reason I came up with this, I was discussing it with somebody in Telegram in a Dutch group, and he said like, hey, there are some people saying that Bitcoin might go down 30%. What do you think? And is that not like bad for alts? And I was looking and looking and looking, and I was like, you know what? Maybe that's exactly what we need. So let me talk about that real quick, because I know that, like, let's imagine Bitcoin goes down 30% at this level, right? That's around 74K. And that would probably scare you, right? That would probably scare everybody. But is it that bad? Well, look at this. If Bitcoin goes down 30% from this level, right, from where we are right now, that would mean that we are sitting at, like I said, 74.5K. Now, that sounds really scary. Because hey, the bull market is over, the bear market is there, right? However, I feel like, well, what makes it a bear market? Because we have a clear structure in Bitcoin. We have high highs, high lows on the higher time frame, and on the shorter time frame, it doesn't really seem to matter really that much, because hey, we have a high, a lower high, lower high, a low, low, low. But that's just, you know, what Bitcoin does. It goes up, it ranges, it sweeps that low, and then bam, goes up. It ranges, you know, it goes down, it sweeps that low, and it goes up. It ranges, it sweeps that low, and here it was even a better sweep, by the way. It was a real good sweep. And then it goes up. Here it ranged, and it swept that low again. Now, it's also funny, though, that if you look at, hey, that's how Bitcoin moves. What's the average move that it goes up from that low sweep? Right, so I looked at that, and here it was 90%, and it was 100%, I think, around here, or even more, 120%, and the average was 85%. And you could say like, well, 85% from here, that sounds impossible, 100, impossible. Well, I mean, that's been going on this whole cycle so far. So look, I'm not saying like that will happen, but I'm saying like, what's weird about doing what it's been doing, right? This cycle so far, like nothing too far in the past or anything. So that's an outcome, that's a possibility, but who knows? You know what? I might make this video public anyway, because this is good shit. So if this is public, I don't know if it is, but then like the video. But it's for the Elf Factory no matter what. Then you can, you know, see a little bit what we do in the Elf Factory as well. There's a link down below for that stuff. But do we maybe need a 30% correction? Now, I know that there are a lot of people saying like, well, if we go below 100K, it's over. Why? Yeah, Benjamin said so. Right? And that's because then Bitcoin will be sitting below the 50 weekly moving average. And every time that happens, we go into a bear market. Yeah, except for in 2019, 20, and in 2014. So it's not every time. So I don't dare to bet on that, actually. But what if we go down with 30%, right? 30%, look, if you zoom out, what do you see? You see a low. You see a higher low, you see a higher low. So even if we go to around that level right here, that would still, you know, pretty much be a higher low, right? If we really start to close, let's say, below 74, then I'm like, okay, I think we should admit that this is a bear market. But my bar is not set at what happens to be at this moment, 102K, because that's kind of scary, right? Like, everybody now feels like, okay, bull markets could still be in, but if we go down another 5% and close there, then that's a bear market, right? Why? Because there is a moving average right there, just because of that. Because like I said earlier, there were moments in the market where we closed like way below that. Like here we closed multiple times, right? At least 1-2 closes after each other. And here we had many closes, and earlier in the cycle as well. But that was kind of at the halfway of the bull market. It wasn't even really the start. It was not the end. It was so. I'm like, yeah, the cycle always closed whenever we go below it, but it's not that every time we go below it, the cycle closed, right? If you know what I mean. So it's kind of doom case scenario that we want to keep in consideration, but that you should not like blindly hold on to, in my opinion. With that being said, above that level, we are still in an uptrend. And you know, what is a bull market? A bull market is where an asset is in an uptrend. So it's way more obvious to me to say that, like, hey, if we are still above 75K, that's technically still an uptrend. It has a higher low. So that's a bull market technically, like, right? Like, so we have a lot of wiggle room in my opinion. But then I started to look, because this person asked me, like, if Bitcoin goes down 30%, then alts are gonna get completely wrecked, right? Because if Bitcoin goes down, altcoins go down harder. And I said, like, well, yeah, it depends on what altcoins do on the Bitcoin pair. So therefore, I started looking at that, and it is pretty interesting actually, because I said, like, well, for example, let's take a look at the altcoin market. Right, on its Bitcoin pair, you can find out a lot of stuff, right? If you overlay Bitcoin right here, and this is what I've showed before, but here you can see that Altseason, this chart, started in 2017, the second leg at least, whenever Bitcoin topped. That was when Altseason started, right? But then I looked like, okay, but what did, because it depends, right? Are altcoins outperforming Bitcoin harder than Bitcoin is underperforming against the dollar? Otherwise, you can make more Bitcoin, and that's eventually nice. But if you want to walk away with some good dollar amounts, then this means shit to you, right? So then I started to look like, okay, so what did altcoins do on the dollar pair? Because the period where altcoins really outperformed right here, and where Bitcoin had its first correction, yeah, altcoins massively exploded, right? So what happened with Bitcoin back then? So I started to go back in time, well, at least on the charts, not really, but there you can see that during that period right here where altcoins started to really outperform, Bitcoin had that period a correction. Let me find the right, here you go. Of this was the period right here from this candle to this candle. That was a moment where alts performed, right? So in that moment, Bitcoin went down with 37%, and it went a little low because of a wick, but hey, close, whatever. 37%, right? From December 17 until December 25. In that period, if you look at the total altcoin market, there you go. What do you see? It's this period, right, where Bitcoin topped out. December 17, so this is where Bitcoin topped out. And what did altcoins do? They went absolutely nuts in that period, right here, right? If you take it all the way there, altcoins did like, what was it, a total of 360%. And if you take it to the same date, then it's 236%, right? So that was the first cycle where we really had altcoins. And that cycle showed us like Bitcoin can drop 37%. Hell, it could even be a huge blow off top and go straight into a bear market. Altcoins can still like 4.5x, right? And this is the general market. Like this has the top coins as well. And they don't do like that much. But yeah, we have the lower cap coins, they compensate for that. So where an whatever was around back then, where a Monero, which was a quite high cap, you know, did maybe a 4x, something rank way lower did a 80x, right? That's kind of, so that cycle already showed us like, okay, it's not really that bad actually. And then I said that, and he asked me, what happened in 2021? So I was like, okay, good to check that out, because to be honest, never looked at that actually. But what you notice is that when Altseason started in 2021, all right, so this is the Altseason chart again, the total altcoin market without stable coins on the Bitcoin pair, right? Chart up, Altseason, chart down. Your sentiment, not Altseason. And when did alt season start in 2021? Well, it was pretty clear. We were like, this was like, bam, down, right? Like it was terrible. And then up. And in my opinion, yeah, alt season is where you go from the lows to the highs. Depends where you like. That's my take at least. Because that's where they started to reverse, right? Then I'll overlay Bitcoin on that. And I was like, let's take a look at it. And what happened? Right here. Alt season here started right where Bitcoin had its first real correction. Right? Bitcoin was up, and it had some like cool down. But the first real correction relative to what it did so far in that market, right? And that's exactly where alt season started. Now you might look at this chart and be like, yeah, dude, it's not much of a correction, right? It was January 4, 2021. So let's go to the 4th of January 2021. And what you'll notice is that what Bitcoin did there, it went down 30%. Right? I thought like, oh, okay, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe a cool coincidence. But it shows once again that, hey, the first alt season started when Bitcoin went down 37%. Bitcoin, hell, it even topped out for that cycle. The last alt season started when Bitcoin went down with 30%. And even back then, right, when Bitcoin corrected, it was from January 4 until January 18 or 25, kind of the same, doesn't really matter. You feel like, okay, then what did altcoins do on the dollar pair once again? And what you notice, January 4 was this point right here until January to 18 or 21, depends where you take it, right? Altcoins went up 75, or if you take it to this one, 100%. And after that, of course, Bitcoin continued its bull market, but altcoins also started to continue outperform Bitcoin. And there's narrative to that, because whales, I've said this before, whales create an alt season, not retail, right? It's not like we need retail for alt season. No, we need alt season for retail. Because there are people in crypto with a lot of money. And I'm not just talking about ETFs, institutions, just whales, right? And what do whales do? They make money. They make the market. They make money. Of course, they are not gambling on altcoins right now. Why? Bitcoin is leading, right? Bitcoin is the lowest risk, right? So the risk is lowest. That will always be the case. But if the rewards in Bitcoin are also fine, then why would they go somewhere else, right? But what happened during these periods in 2017 and 2021 is that whales, they were making money with Bitcoin. And at a certain point, Bitcoin really stalled out. Now, they also look at the Bitcoin dominance and are like, wow, you know, Bitcoin relative to the rest of the market had its time. It's no longer that profitable anymore. It's no longer profitable also compared to the rest of the market, also risk-wise in that short time frame. Bitcoin is always lower risk, but hey, we see there are moments where altcoins outperform Bitcoin, right? So you make more, yeah, it's easy as that. And then these whales rotate into alts. And then Bitcoin could still go up, but altcoins go up way harder. And that's where retail looks like, whoa, 20x there, 20x there, let me get in, right? They don't care about Bitcoin going up, like, yeah, it's already expensive, right? And that's, in my opinion, nothing to rule out that could happen this cycle again, right? We saw it in both cycles so far. So let's not ignore the fact that it could also happen in this one. So if you feel like, let's say, and here's the chart, by the way, that I talked about. 80, 90%, 105%, 70%, average is 85%, right? So if Bitcoin just keeps on doing what it's doing so far, right? Because there are like, I don't know, man, about when the cycle is gonna top. Again, I spoke a lot about that lately. It could be that it's this quarter. It could be that it's in half year. I don't know. I have no idea. All I do know is I don't really care because, again, history shows that, yeah, fuck it, let Bitcoin top. I don't care. It's about altcoins for me at this point as well, anyway. And we saw that we can get an alt season as soon as Bitcoin stopped with its bull market, right? Not even a correction, but just a big blow of top. It's even enough. If Bitcoin does go up like this, that could maybe drag the dominance up. Right, but I'm fine with that because that's a lot more fuel in the tank for alts. So then we might not see an alt season very soon, but then whenever we see it, it's gonna be insane. So I'm also completely fine with that, right? Plus, it could be that, you know, we get this compared with an alt season. It's also would not be the first time. That will be the very best case scenario, and then it's really going nuts. It could be. It could be. Remember, it's about liquidity, right? It's all about liquidity in the market. And Bitcoin, 110K, 150K, hell, 80K, that's a lot of liquidity compared to the altcoin market. Put $1 of liquidity from Bitcoin into the altcoin market, and that $1 can make $5 or $10 market cap difference in that altcoin. Right? So it's not so weird to say that altcoins can go up 20x like that, because that's how it works when you flow that liquidity into that market. And I know it's easy to say like, well, yeah, that's not going to happen this time. It's like, yeah, okay, you can think that's not really worked out so far. Now, all of this is a real good reason to be bullish on alts, in my opinion. And if you still feel like, no, I am not, because, you know, you hear it a lot, right? Like, well, Bitcoin is already there and altcoins are not doing anything, so they are that. No, Bitcoin is already there and altcoins are not doing anything, so that's the same as the last cycle, and that's exactly the reason why I want to be bullish on it, right? If you look at alts on their Bitcoin pair, and you overlay Bitcoin on this, right? Let's overlay Bitcoin. Let me remove everything for now to clean up the noise a little bit. If you overlay BTC, what do you notice? Bitcoin is sitting at all-time high territory, right? Range area. Pretty insane. I have the right chart right here. That works. Altcoins on the Bitcoin pair, though, are sitting really low. They just had a capitulation event to new lows, right? Not that it matters. Again, I said before, I think that this should be erased from the charts because it only affected the ones who were longing or shorting, not spot holders. So it doesn't mean much, in my opinion. But well, still, we got it, right? But if you look at this, is it like that different from last cycle? Because Bitcoin was at 126, almost 2x above its previous all-time high. And altcoins are sitting at the ultimate lows against Bitcoin. Yeah, just like here, right? Altcoins were sitting at, like, here. Bitcoin was sitting at around 35K. Almost 2x above its previous all-time high. And during that moment, altcoins got their final capitulation against Bitcoin. They first went into a bear market, sideways for a long time, final capitulation. And in the meantime, Bitcoin is sitting almost 2x above its all-time high. And that's why people say, look, Bitcoin is running and altcoins are not doing shit, so fuck altcoins. Well, we know from last cycle that that's not really a good reason to be bearish. It's a really good reason to be bullish. Because again, the liquidity in Bitcoin, it was adding up. There was a lot of fuel in the tank. There was less liquidity in the altcoin market. So if you even take a little bit of Bitcoin liquidity and put it there, then bam. And that's exactly what happened. This chart went up like it went vertical. Really freaking vertical. In a matter of like a couple months, it like completely changed direction and anything, like everything, like it was nuts. Here, people couldn't imagine that it would ever happen. Sounds familiar, right? It's exactly what we are doing right now. Therefore, I'm like, time-wise, it's all a little stretched, but it's not weird because one, people know about the cycle right now, so they may hold on to the altcoins a little bit longer before they capitulate compared to this cycle. Two, the whole business cycle has moved to the right. And if it turns out that Bitcoin as a financial product also just like follows the business, yeah, then it's not weird at all, right? But apart from that, the timeline is a little stretched out. Everything is the same. Everything is literally exactly the same. I'm like, well, okay, if we are so much about like the seasonality and it's October and it's Q4, oh, we should stick to what happened before all of a sudden, right? And it's all the same. Well, then you have a fuckload of reasons to be really bullish, actually, at this point. So is this maybe what we need? Do we maybe need a 30% or at least a fat correction in Bitcoin? Right? It could be exactly that we need that. It could be the case. I don't know. But again, it's apparently what we got in 2017 and it's what we got in 2021. And it might be just what we will get or want to have in 2025 or maybe even 6 by then as well. Makes sense. And I can already look, if Bitcoin now drops to like 70 or 80K, 75K, whatever, there's no one bullish left. Everyone will be bearish. Everyone will be saying bear market is in, it's over, altcoins are not gonna. But again, we just see like, maybe that is exactly what we need. Because that will also fuck up the rest of the sentiment that's still a little positive, right? So I'm already mentally prepared. Like if we get a drop like that, you get all the bears to the to the YouTube channel saying, ha. And I'm like, yeah, let's wait. Let's wait for a second to see how this is gonna play out. Right? And don't be in a rush. Like, don't be in a rush. If you are in a rush, then not really a good thing. But yeah, man, I mean, we'll find out if that's the case. Look, so far, we can say like, well, it needs a correction of 30%. And let's be fair, we already have a correction of 14%, right? So maybe it's not even going to be that bad. Maybe, I mean, why should we take the correction from this point and not from the recent local top, right? So if we get a total of a 30% correction, it could put Bitcoin at $88,000. Maybe that's all it takes. Well, $88,000 is by no means anything bearish on this chart yet. But that gives us a potential required correction that we need in order to get an alt season. Plus, again, the story that I told about whales, you know, looking at Bitcoin no longer being profitable, mostly compared to the rest of the market. If you look at the Bitcoin dominance, this thing has reversed already, right? It's now in a bounce. I mean, it's like timing-wise, it is strong. Move-wise, it is like, I don't know. But if you look at the Bitcoin dominance, I think that whales might not be 100% convinced yet. They want to see a little more confirmation. I mean, if you look at this chart, there are 5 reasons all in one place to be bearish on this thing at 60.5%, right? One is this trend line right here that was dragging it up, and you can draw it in many ways, right? You can draw it like this. Well, then it's even way further below it. But I also think like if we take this part to this part right here, right, that also makes sense in some ways. It's a diagonal line. Comes in at resistance at around 60.5%. As you can see, we have the Fib tool, right? And you can say about Fibonacci whatever you want, but if you apply that same Fibonacci on this chart on a bigger time frame, where did it top out? Also exactly there, right? So that's number 2. The 0.382 comes in exactly at that level, right? Now, apart from that, there's this horizontal where we have a lot of stuff going on. If you look, when we were in a full uptrend, the real first correction, big correction that we got this cycle was at that point, right? Once we broke that, that same level was a perfect retest. Whenever we topped out, we went straight down on the dominance, and that level, together with the tier 2, actually, by the way, again, was the perfect retest again, right? So you can say whatever you want. This level is big. And not to mention the periods in the last cycle where it also had a lot of important stuff going on. And so that's number 3. All coming in at the same level. Then we have number 4, which is like, if Bitcoin closes below it, according to some people, it's over. Okay, cool. What if the Bitcoin dominance is below it then? Or does that not matter? So that comes in at that level as well. And on top of that, we have the bull market support band coming in at the same level. So if I look at the Bitcoin dominance, look, I'm not here sitting saying like it's impossible that it will go higher. But this is the biggest resistance that it ever faced, right? Ever. It's all coming at the same point. So I'm like, in order to get that alt season that's now so freaking obvious, in my opinion, we need the Bitcoin dominance to go down. Does it make sense that it goes down? Well, if this was an altcoin, I would fucking sell everything that I have right now before it faces this point right here. Because this is not just one line or whatever. We just saw like everything coming in together. Good luck, right? Good luck. So that might be, where the Bitcoin dominance continues its way down. And that's fine, because we have seen many moments in the market where Bitcoin goes up, but where the Bitcoin dominance goes down, right? Because there is money coming into crypto, but there is more money coming into altcoins than Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin might go up or not even crash or whatever the hell, but the Bitcoin dominance could still go down. Right, so I think that's pretty interesting. Like, for example, in the last bull market, right? This whole 2021 period was a big fat, bull market for Bitcoin and alts. But yeah, look what happened to the Bitcoin dominance. It completely crashed, right? So yeah, do we need to see the Bitcoin dominance go or up? Why? Like, we don't need that. Like, we didn't need it over here. We did. I don't know. So a 30% correction plus, like, man, like I just said way earlier on my channel as well, name a bull market where we don't regularly have that, right? And every 30% correction, I know people shit their fucking selves, but then again, what did we have right here? Well, here we had a 22% correction, right? This one is a little milder, actually, but that diminishes as well, so that's not that weird. This one was a 22% correction. This one right here was 30%, I think, was a 33% correction. Then we had this one right here, which was a 31% correction, right? So even in this bull market, it's like often still happens. Like, it's not bull markets are up only and bear markets are down only. Like, bull markets are up, down. 2 steps up, 1 step down, basically. So yeah, I mean, a 30% correction, again, that could take Bitcoin to 88K or so. Yeah, fine, right? That's completely fine. So again, maybe it's just what we need. Maybe. We'll find out. For now, this kind of it. Again, like, I am not trying to say like, well, we will go up, but I'm also not trying to be the person that says like, this level is coming close, freak the fuck out right now. Like, I don't see much reasons for that. So 1, Bitcoin looks very healthy to me. 2, Altseason, if you're betting against it, then in my opinion, look at some charts or whatever the fuck, and probably it will change your mind, actually, because it's all written over it. And 3, that's also what I said before, but we don't even need an alt season. There's a lot of money in alts, right? If the lower caps start to outperform coins like BNB and XRP, that's enough, right? And why bet against a rotation that's currently happening, right? We had Bitcoin, we had ETH, we had high caps. It's happening. So yeah, why would we say like, well, the next step won't happen? Like, how does that make sense, right? So all in all, I get emotions, but if you use your mind and your reasonable thinking, then I feel like, man, being bearish right now, it's simply stupid. Actually, you're like, why? Yeah, no, I don't see it. I really don't see it. So yeah, thanks for it. I don't know where I'm gonna drop this video. I'll see where it ends up. For now, thanks for watching. If it's somewhere public, then like it. Let me know something down below, and I'll see you in the next one.